And without further ado, I want to jump in to where we talk about growth hacking with AI. As yesterday, the same rules apply. Please find the chat box at the bottom of your screen. And as we go through today's session, please share any questions, comments, actively engage when I ask you questions, because we learn from each other and we learn by being present and engaged. And then, of course, please put your distractions away and focus on today's topic, because traction trumps most problems. And today we're going to talk about how we get that critical early traction for all of you here. All right. So in terms of where we are in our challenge, right? Yesterday we talked about building killer products. If you missed yesterday's session, you can join WhatsApp group or look at your email for replay. I do apologize. I think the email actually went out with an outdated link. So if you're missing the link, you can email me to ask, or better yet, join the WhatsApp group that has the updated link for yesterday's replay. Today, we're going to talk about growth hacking with AI. And then tomorrow is how we monetize this, right? Not only how we build an amazing product that everyone wants, how we reach out to those customers, but then how we actually turn all that action into money, because until someone pays, there is no business. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. And then lastly, idea to exit. I share my lessons learned having scaled ClassTech to 5 million parents and teachers, raising $12 million in funding, and finally selling that business last year. And that brought me here to help you guys navigate that journey with more clarity and more confidence that I was lacking as a first-time founder, and really wanted to share those critical playbooks and lessons learned. All right, so we're gonna kick things off right away and test your engagement with the question: what is the number one way to gain early traction for startups? Let's see. I'm sure you guys tried and tested a number of strategies. So what do you think is the number one strategy? And I'm looking at the chat here. Don't be shy. Talk to everyone you can. Fantastic advice. And actually very much in line with what we're going to talk about. All right, marketing, word of mouth, engage previous customers and relationships. I'm waiting for one more. Let's see. Make one single sale. Absolutely. All great options and great ideas here. And I can tell you what it is not, right? And I'm glad that you guys are so focused already on actually what we're going to talk about today, because a lot of founders that I talk to, they just come with this mesh or mess of things that one could do to grow. And all of these are actually fine strategies: SEO, display, social, referrals, organic, inbound, trade shows, offline, you name it, right? But most of these things are not needed for, or all of these things, in fact, are not needed to gain your first paying customers, right? And that's really what creates so much overwhelm and mystery, right? When you just getting started, you don't even have your pilot customers or beta customers, and you want to do this big launch or big press release or something, right? It is all great when the time is right. Like, a lot of these strategies are about scaling, and the beginning is not about scaling. The beginning is about founders doing things that don't scale. And the reason why I say founders is because those things typically are not easy, right? They're very labor intensive. They require you to have the kind of passion that oftentimes only founders have in that belief and living in this distorted reality where the world is how the founder envisioned it already. And that's why it's so critical that not someone you hire externally that you pay to go sell to your first customers. And I hear so many founders get completely tripped by this, and in fact that can kill your startup. This is one of those things that can really kill your startup if you don't have someone on the founding team who is in charge of getting your first paying customers. And that means founders must learn to sell before hiring others. And folks who work with me, they know that you can run, but you cannot hide. If you work with me, you will sell, or someone on your founding team will sell, right? Because it's such a critical feedback loop to ensure that you are actually building what people want, right? Because that's really where you close the loop, right? Once you get the customers, exchange the value of the product for their dollars, then you bring that feedback back to product, right? And that's really when you have the beginnings of the product market fit, right? And that's why it has to be a very iterative process and ensure that there are no missing links in between, right? And it also means that we do whatever it takes to go and get your first customers and worry about scaling later, right? It's not about on day one, let me go get, I don't know, 1,000 customers or 10,000 or whatever big numbers, right? We are focused on getting our first customer and then our first 5 customers, our first 10 customers, right? Again, depending on how your early days are organized and what programs make sense. But typically when you are in these first 10 customers, this is when you do things that don't scale. It doesn't mean that you don't need enough data points to get to those people, right? And we'll talk about it, but it does mean that you don't worry about, let me build the most beautiful funnel, let me build the most beautiful automation. You don't know if this is going to work or not, so why automate anything, right? It has to be really manual process. But again, today we're going to talk about leveraging AI, leveraging systems that exist, right, that you don't have to build, that help you scale. All right. What happens if you scale before you've proven initial product market fit? And believe me, the reason why so many founders are trying to scale before they hit product market fit is perhaps because they raise funding and they get a lot of pressure to do that, right? And they have to, if they feel that they don't have product market fit, they now have to go back to investors and say, well, actually, the plans that I put forth are no longer true. I think we're better off not scaling until we hit these product milestones or product market fit milestones, right? Or just having pressure, right, to go because it took you a while to build that product. But you have to be very disciplined, right? Because what happens if you scale the wrong thing is you waste a lot of money, because typically to scale quickly, you need to put money into marketing or hiring salespeople, etc., right? Kind of beefing up your go-to-market resources. You are wasting learning opportunities because you are really not properly iterating and don't allow enough space. So everything is experiment, and these experiments are funded too much. And so that basically doesn't allow you to see how things are moving. And then at the end of the day, you will be left with less money or no money because you've spent it on your marketing activities, and same problems, right? So you still don't have a product market fit because you didn't have time to iterate, to look at the cohorts, right? So maybe you launch in cohort of 5 customers and you see how they do, and then you have the next 5, right? And so now you got to the point when the second 5 was 2 times better than the first 5, and you're saying, okay, now I'm ready, right? Whatever that path is, but you have to really remove the idea that in the earliest stages, it's about growth. In the earliest stages, it's about having engagement and having maximum value that's better than anyone else provides in the market for your target customers, right? And in order to get there, you just need to focus on that And you need some number of customers, but it's not an infinite number that just says, go, 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 let me get as many people as I possibly can, right? You need to know what your number is based on sort of B2C, obviously, is typically a bigger number than B2B business models, etc. But I hope that a point resonates with you guys. I really want you to remember this this lesson, and feel free to ask any questions or horror stories that I can share with you about not following that, if you so dare. All right, so in the actual program, how to get your first 10 paying customers in 90 days, what we do in months 2, right, or the next 4 modules are all about growth hacking with AI. It's a complete founder-led sales playbook, step by step by step. You take it and you execute, right? It's the playbook I wished I had, and that would have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars and perhaps years of startup development and growth cycles if I had that playbook as an early stage founder. But now you can have it. Scaling your outreach, cold outreach systems. Again, this is one of those things that requires scale. Sales funnel, again, important to understand if you don't have a direct sales background, right? What are the stages? What are the typical KPIs to expect? How to handle objections, and in general run a great demo, etc. And then AI prompting for rapid growth. One thing that always blows my mind, and that's why I infused some AI into the challenge as well as the course, is that even folks building AI products are not using AI for their own day-to-day work and personal life just enough, right? Because you just don't have that workflow. So today you will get some very actionable hacks, but in the actual program, we have a whole module on that with my personal library of all the resources. And as you can see from feedback from folks that take in the program, it's really a game changer for their ability to execute, because a good idea executed is exponentially better than a fantastic idea that sits on a shelf, especially when you're an early stage founder. All right, so we're going to talk about the companies or the types of customers to focus on. And that type, pay attention to this revolutionary insight. That type is called the easiest customer, right? And the funny part about it is a lot of things in business are so common sense, right? And this one is too. But we as founders who are so deep in day-to-day, so deep in what we are building, right? And can overlook some of the simple things, right? And that's why you should now think about who you are trying to attract within your target persona. And are you really trying to get after or go after your easiest customers? And we'll talk about who they are, right? Who they are not is most desired, most valuable, most recognized. There would be time for those, but that's not now, right? But they are the people who trust you, they can move quickly, and they can pay, right? Because what is the difference between customer and user is that customers are the ones who are paying for the product. All right, so how do we find them? So today I'm going to share strategies, personal experiences about where those folks live and how to get them. So of course, one of you guys talk to everyone about what you're building. And that goes straight into bucket number 1, your personal and professional networks. And according to First Round Capital, 83% of startups acquire their first customers through personal and professional networks. This is huge, right? And like me, when I was getting started, you might think, oh, I don't know any educators or teachers, right? I just, back in the day, I was an immigrant founder, just got to New York. And I didn't know any teachers. I never went through US educational system. I didn't even know very well what it looks like back in the day. And yet I had a lot of mommy friends because I had my small daughter at home, and through that I got introduced to parenting meetups and mommy groups, etc. And I said, well, these people are not the people I need, but they are the people who can get me to the people I need. Right. So I've had one degree of separation from the teachers and schools, but I said, hey, this is my asset, right? And so I started going to more of these groups initially. I started asking and interviewing these parents, asking me to refer to the teachers and schools, right? So I leveraged kind of my channel that I had access to get to the actual people I needed, right? And you would be surprised, right? My just talking about it is not necessarily easiest customers, but for example, my co-founders at ClassTag was the most phenomenal person I've ever worked with. And he was a dad in my daughter's preschool class, right? And have I not talked to everyone about what I'm building, I would have never found him. And so that goes back to interest groups, neighbors, right? Former and current colleagues, university groups, startup networks, introductions, go to your LinkedIn, see who's connected to who, right? The most random people can through serendipity and through just the way that luck finds its way to people who who work hard. It all happens, right? And so that's why this one is so important, and really thinking broadly, right? Not just saying, hey, I don't know anyone who can help. Just think about that, start the conversations, and even if you get to the point when you are annoying to other people, it's fine. Just apologize and just say, hey, I wanted to share something exciting I'm working on, right? All right. The other area, which is fantastic to look for your easiest customers, are online communities or building in public, right? Building in public is something that became popular in the last few years, right? When, let's say, on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever your platform of choice is, you start talking about the problem you're solving, the progress you're making, even sharing financial data and whatnot, right? Sort of just kind of a full transparency, and a number of Twitter or X is a big platform for that too. That's a great way to build, especially if your potential target customers or your potential investors, community members, influencers are there. But it also is not the most comfortable way to build. I, for one, didn't do that when I was building. In fact, I don't know if I would do it if I were starting now. It's a choice, right? And but there are many other ways to find these online communities on Facebook, LinkedIn groups, Quora, right, Quip, whatever your where your people are, right? And again, that's something that AI can help you identify, right? What are the biggest channels that they use? And again, something you can use in your customer discovery to know where they're spending time. And you can join those groups. And in fact, there are thousands of educational Facebook groups. And that was another huge lever for me in the earliest days of ClassTag was the teacher groups, specifically K through 2, elementary teacher groups and lower elementary on Facebook. Because guess what? People who join these groups, they want to continue learning, right? They like talking about, their teaching and the things related to it in these groups, right? And typically those are the people that you really will benefit from attracting first, because they have a voice and they would be more proactive in sharing what you're doing and being your early ambassador. So if you haven't joined your relevant groups, like in this example, math teacher, right? Look at how many groups there are. There are tens of thousands of highly targeted eyeballs and your prospective users and customers available in these groups, right? Don't look like a spammer. Don't join all of them in one day. Don't post everywhere in one day, but create a plan. If you already have a couple of early teacher users, for example, you can ask one of them to be that ambassador and help you spread the word in the groups, that's actually the best strategy. But even short of that, as a founder, you can still join these groups and participate in conversation and post from time to time in a very gentle way about the area that you are working to solve and improve in education. Number 3 are in-person events, right? There is so much digital noise out there, right? And in fact, we are not only competing with actual competitors, we're competing with everyone, right? When it comes to our email inboxes, to our Instagram feeds and TikTok and whatever else, right? And that's why these in-person events are so valuable, right? It's much easier to build connection. It's much more memorable. And then as a result, there is more opportunity for something to come out of this. Also, a lot of these in-person events tend to be pretty expensive. If you need to set up your booth, right? For many startups, it's really out of reach. Even though you should look at startup programs, many of the big conferences have that. But you don't need big conferences. In fact, the best conferences are small conferences, right? And look at meetups, Eventbrite events, right? Reach out to those organizers, right? Something I used to do, there was a teacher meetup in New York. I used to just reach out to organizers and suggest different topics, and I would put together a panel. A lot of these topics were related to family engagement or student success or areas that I wanted the right folks to show up for. And that's fantastic. As a meetup organizer, they loved me because they had less work to do. And I loved it because I was in a position of authority with these people on a panel, and I got to discuss my focus question for free and get a lot of buy-in from this, right? So you can be creative. Again, it doesn't come with little work, unfortunately, like many of these things in the early days, but you can absolutely do it. You can also go to conferences just where either your customers are exhibiting. So for example, if you are targeting private schools, right? And these private schools have a conference where they're trying to sell their schools to parents. This is the best conference for you to go to because you will get a captive audience of all these private school people standing at their booth. And they're not busy many times, right? And so then you can go and talk to them and sell whatever you're selling, right? That's a captive audience in that, right? It doesn't always work that way, but think about, do you have such an opportunity, right? There are obviously ways that you can just go and organize your own coffee meetups, right? Many conferences allow you to post a topic if you're a participant and get a coffee meetup, or follow their hashtag on Twitter, right? Just be creative. You can do it on a dime. You don't have to have massive budget. Yes, it requires a lot of passion and legwork, that's for sure. But as I often say, CEO doesn't mean chief executive officer. It means chief energy officer. So I hope you guys have energy, or make sure you do, because that's really what everyone connects to in the earliest days in particular. Happy to talk more about strategies for events in general. That's one of the areas where you can get creative and cheap and effective at the same time. All right, so here's the list of top educational conferences in the US. If you guys knew starting out, take a screenshot from this because this is really the top conferences. And you can also look at things that are niche, right? So for example, if you have a math solution, of course, a number of these are too broad for you. So you would want to narrow down to just math. Something like ASU GSV at the top here is a great conference for potential partnerships, investors, and sort of more business oriented. Everything else here is all about sales, right? The other thing not to overlook are these local or regional conferences. And for whatever reason, right, a customer in Detroit really trusts the other customer in Detroit and not someone who is in the state over, right? And that's why if you're starting to have some footprint, you have to really build and build and build on that to build your density, because that's really the easier way to grow. And we are talking about easiest customers and easiest strategies to use. All right. Another strategy, I think it was the fourth, we have 6 in total, is other people's network. So what does it mean, other people's network? Of course, there is a gazillion sites today where you can announce that you're launching something, Product Hunt, Hacker News, a number of other education-specific sites where you can publish the announcement. But the best way to do it is to really leverage the existing authority, existing influencers, right? And that means you either put together a maybe virtual webinar with a panel of influencers, and then these influencers share on the topic that's relevant to you, and you become part of that conversation that brought them together. You can ask and invite influencers with a discount code, or just give them access to showcase the product and how they're using it. Again, it has to be very targeted and very niche. So for example, if your product is specifically for special needs elementary students, right, you need to find the influencers that are focused on that, right? That you know that that's their audience, because that's really where you get the biggest outcome. It's also great to leverage micro influencers. I think we were actually one of the first companies in education that did that at scale, and maybe they got a little bit more stingy over time because of that, but I literally could do it with a very small budget to get those teachers using it and stagger it. So it was a big splash and a big campaign. And then the last idea on the list of other people's network is, of course, guest blogging. So guest blogging can be on other companies' websites, for example, can be, again, something relevant to STEM, our STEM teachers, right? Whatever that niche is, right? Think about that and where you can be a guest blogger, right? So those things are things that you do for free or very close to free, and they can give you that extra visibility. And in order to find educational influencers, you can use ChatGPT, or you can go to directly one of the platforms of choice. So for example, Instagram in this case, and you can look at different hashtags. You can ask ChatGPT to help you figure out what are the most effective hashtags for you to follow, and for depending on your target audience, etc. And they are the work that you need to do will be cut in at least half, if not more, right? It's incredible time to be entrepreneur. Market research, marketing research, sales research, right? It's just really everything is 10x faster. Use it, because everyone else assume that everyone else does. And so you will be behind if you don't, right? Only the paranoid survive. So you have to be a fast mover. All right. And the same applies to our strategy number 5, which talks about going after fast movers. And that typically are startups or maybe more innovative schools. Again, if you are selling to them, right, maybe they just opened up a new charter school, or micro schools, for example, is a big trend now, right? Or maybe it's some other institutions that are sort of newer. And you can focus on stage appropriate startups, for example, those who just raised funding, or those who were just acquired, right, depending on the specific problem that your product is solving. But the key about small organizations is decision makers are within reach. They can make decisions, as opposed to going from committee to committee to committee, which is really where things go to die, and you don't want that to happen to your startup. So try to identify those who can move fast. And if they're not startups, so maybe you're selling to public schools, for example, they're typically not really startups. You have to look at early adopters and you have to pre-qualify them, right? And that means that those companies would typically be active online. They talk specific implementation. They have detailed questions. They won innovation awards, right? You're asking them about timelines. They have answers to those questions, right? Think about who those people are and try to pre-qualify them, because there are so many districts, for example, or so many larger organizations that will take 10 meetings with you, 15 meetings with you, and you don't have that time. You just don't, right? As an early stage company, you need people who can make decisions and move. And while they might be a fantastic prospect for you a year from now, you just don't have a year to wait at the moment. And so see how they are open to working with startups, who else they worked with, right? What the process was, etc. Just feel and know that you have something of value, right? Because you validated your product, you know what it solves and what value it can create, right? You already live in this future when it all happened and it's all true. And that has to be such a deep held belief that is completely unshakable. Even when customer calls you and says, hey, there are 67 bugs in your product. Yes, you have to go and fix them right away, but it doesn't mean that it somehow creates any hesitation in your belief in what you're doing, not when you're jumping on your next sales calls, not when you're talking to investors, employees, and whomever else, right? That's a really big part of that early founder mindset, that everything is going to work out. That brings us to the 6 strategies, right? Your personal and professional networks, online communities building in public, in-person events, other people's networks, startups, and early adopters that you need to pre-qualify, right? And by the way, partnerships were not on this list, right? And they were not on this list for a reason, because it's very often that partnerships, especially with larger companies, let's say Google, Microsoft, or even 2-3 levels down from that size, will take months, will take years, right? You don't have that in your earliest days, right? And that's why purposefully they're not on that list. There are, of course, exceptions. If they really want something, they will make it happen. But their urgency, what is completely different timeline, right? For them, urgent means this year. For you, urgent means right now, right? And just different sense of time. All right. I have another question for you because I've been talking for too long and I want to hear you guys' feedback. So what is your perspective? So let's look at this company. Is this company going to gain early customers successfully? So we have open rate of 20%, reply rate of 5%, conversion to demo or meeting, right, from those replies 50%, and then conversion to paying customers 20%. So I want to see from you guys if you believe this company will gain customers successfully. Let's see. Mona, what do you think? JT, Tara, Isabella, Cole, Patricia, Ellie. I want to get your votes. It depends on how many emails went out. Tara, is it your first challenge with me or you've been here before? All right. Fantastic. Well, as Tara said, and stole the thunder here, if the company, in fact, sent 100 emails, they got nothing. They got no customers. But if the company sent 1,000 emails, they got a customer, right? And this is just a bit of a simplified illustration of oftentimes there's just not enough volume, not enough data points to say whether this strategy is working or not, right? And that's where it's sort of art and science, because there is no precise number. But here's one take on this that will really help, right? And that one take is, think about what percentage of your market is looking for your kind of solution every given year. What percentage is looking for your kind of solution right now when you're emailing them or reaching out to them? And the answer is very small, right? And John Miller has this rule of 95-5, where he claims that 95% of your buyers are not in market for your product. Of course, this is a number that depends on the kind of product and frequency of purchase, etc. But unless you're selling milk, bread, eggs, and a few other essentials, majority of your market is not buying anything you have to offer at any given point in time, right? And that's why, while we are saying do things that don't scale at scale, right? Because you have to have enough conversations, you have to send enough emails, you need to go to enough meetups, right? And that's why I think that's a little bit of a duality, right? Doing things that don't scale, but hit enough people with it, right? And I think that's really where some confusion arises from, why, maybe it's a bad sign, maybe it's not working, but maybe you also didn't reach enough people to know. All right. And that's exactly what was happening with Christy, who we worked with at Elevator in our program. I think 2 cohorts ago, she joined and was doing 200 cents. And she's like, oh my God, nobody is responding to my emails and I'm not getting any customers. And so as she deployed the cold emailing system, not only some of her KPIs or metrics in her funnel went up, but she actually increased the volume, leveraging the system with the right protections, of course, and was able to get 4 paying customers during the program, which is fantastic. All right. And that's why we can only control what we measure, right? And that's why early customer CRM is so critical. So if you haven't joined the WhatsApp group, please do. That's where I'll post assignments and recordings, and where you guys can chat and reach out to me as well. And what you will find in day 2 assignment is a simple Google Sheet, which allows you sort of 2 ways to play with it. One is you'll just put your numbers of people you reached out, open rate, etc., to make your determination whether you've done enough or you need to keep digging and doing, or you can just copy and paste the list of people into the copy of my Google Sheets, and that will automatically calculate where you are, or whatever method you use. If you're already in HubSpot or Pipedrive or whatever your method is not as important as the fact that you know your numbers and you know where you need to improve, right? And lastly, my bonus ChatGPT assignment, which is something that's going to blow your mind if you haven't done it, I promise. And in the actual program, we go through kind of next level tactics that are more advanced, but even this one prompt is revolutionary, right? Act as the top in the world market researcher and write a full psychographic profile for whatever your persona is, right? For math teacher in US middle school ages, blah, 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 right? However you want to define it. Let's also pick a name for this persona so it is easy to reference in the future in this chat, right? And you again train that one chat on the persona, and this is what you get, right? In 3 seconds, right? Demographics, lifestyle and interests, values and beliefs, pain points and challenges, motivational goals, behavior traits, preferred channels and touch points. This is crazy. And it's also so relevant, because then when you go back and forth, and ideally also extract emotions and what they're afraid of and all of those things, because at the end of the day, people remember how you made them feel, right? Not what you said or did. And then after that, you can start asking ChatGPT to produce content for social media, for emails, for webinar presentations, for whatever the heck you need. You can use ChatGPT for, but only after it's trained either on its own understanding or on transcripts that you've collected from your persona to help educate ChatGPT. And to that effect, the last bit I wanted to share for the day before I'll turn over to your questions is act as a top in the world email marketer and write a personal email to my university alumni about my startup, blah, 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 right? I tell exactly what I want to use. Advanced tactic that is fantastic. Use spacing, NLP, and FOMO. It just creates higher converting emails and copy in general. And here's what it created, right? It created a beautiful, easy to read email. Of course, I would want to go back and forth on it, but that's pretty much already a fantastic starting point that really speaks to the alumni and why I'm reaching out. All right. The lesson of the day is in life, we win or learn, like in jiu-jitsu, they say, but in early stage startups, we learn and then win, right? And that's why the most important goal for us is learning and iterating and learning and iterating and just being absolutely cool, knowing that most of these experiments will not succeed because we know that there will be experiment that will succeed and we have to find it. Right. So that's the attitude. And I'm going to stop sharing right now and go back to the chat and see your questions. All right. All right. If you haven't posted questions yet, please do. We have a couple of minutes to go through that. What do you think about offering your product for free or reduced price just to get some customers to experiment with? Tara, this is a fantastic question. We will talk in detail what to do with that tomorrow. The short answer is free is never a good idea, or unless there are some very particular requirements as to why it needs to be free, because it just doesn't create buy-in. There is not enough skin in the game, and often the product is not valued, not implemented. And tomorrow I'm going to share strategies of what to do instead. Reduced price is absolutely fine in the earliest days, right? Because you need to get the needle moving. There are also ways that you can play with payment terms, for example, if you're tied to school budgets and things like that. But price is something that you can adjust over time. And if you're looking for your first few customers, honestly, it doesn't really matter what the price is, but it has to exist. And you have to keep moving it up till you see kind of the ultimate point of resistance, because if they agree too fast to the price you named, it means that you sold it too cheaply, and so then you know to continue to elevate that price. If we are not based in the US but want to offer our product there, what's your advice on reaching our easiest customers? That's a fantastic question, JT. I think the beauty of post-COVID world is nobody cares. Nobody really cares where you are. And there are ways that you don't have to lead with that, right? Because nobody is really calling that much on the phone anymore, right? Where you have international phone numbers, for example, or there is a way to work around that as well, right? So easiest customers would be customers in this case who you ideally would travel to conferences to find. Easiest customers would be those that would come from your building in public or guest blogging, right? Using a lot more your offline or online strategies. I've also done things on occasion when I knew that there were some particular people I wanted to meet, and I would tell them that it happens that 2 weeks from now, I'll be in Baltimore. And then when they say, yes, let's meet, then I, in fact, become a guest of Baltimore for that time. So there are ways to deal with distance, but that's something you just need to take into account. Of course, it's easier to be where your customers are, but you can still build companies, and there are plenty of great examples of companies that made it big in US market, that are based in Europe, based in Israel, based in India, based in a variety of places. So it's not a requirement for sure. In my experience, Facebook groups don't receive posts that are even remotely related to product very well. Mona, that is absolutely true. And that's why the best strategy would be to do the following, right? So let's say this is the absolute best. You have a teacher who is using your product and liking it. This teacher maybe used a different product before, or maybe they didn't use anything, and you kindly ask that teacher because you happen to really talk to her all the time. She's part of your early ambassador program, to share it in 3 Facebook groups, 1 week each. And so the teacher can then share her experience or his experience, right? Saying, hey, I've, finally parents are responding to my messages and I picked up this new tool. What are you guys using, right? So it looks much more organic and it's an actual user of the platform, so they can respond. You can also ask broadly questions about, are folks, who is working on some creative strategies to help struggling math learners, right? And that will open the dialogue. Then you can build relationship from there. And then you can say in the comments, right, something along the lines of, hey, I'm interviewing a lot of teachers, or I'm working with a lot of schools, blah, 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 because of my product, right? So again, it's not about, nobody likes to be sold to, right? But as long as it feels authentic, then it is fine. You just need to be gentle. I'm interested in learning more about what you worked with in influencers and the payoff they had for your edtech product. Is this something you go into further in your course, or do you offer one-on-ones? Fantastic question. In the course, we talk about mostly sales strategies and all the foundations of pricing, go-to-market, etc. And that's really what we cover in the small group sessions when we talk about how to unlock growth and which channels would work best. Influencers is one of them, right? Again, it's all product dependent, and it's critical that these influencers are in fact the ones that you need, and that's something we address individually with the folks in the program. Looks like with micro-influencers, you started with teachers. How did that lead to convincing the school to buy your product? That's a great question, Mona. We had a product-led strategy at ClassTech. So our first goal was to get teacher users that invited parents. And in fact, for the first 3 years of the company, we only monetized through brand sponsorships. We didn't have students on the platform, parents, teachers, and brands were sponsoring these communities. I, for one, was trying to avoid selling to schools as long as I could until COVID happened, and we were forced to sell to schools. And so then we got to different strategies. But in fact, micro-influencers can typically bring you teachers. Again, there are micro-influencers also in a district level, but those you will need to use different tactics, right? Like your Instagram posting through them wouldn't work, but something like having them on a panel discussion or collaboration event that you brought together, that more like how you can use influence and the cloud of others to get you to school leaders and district leaders. Hope that makes sense. All right. All about finance size. Joan, no cash. The profile is pretty great. I heard you mentioned feeding in your transcript of train AI. Can you explain more on what worked for you? get to optimal trained AI, and which AIs you prefer to work with, and why? I like my work and everything to be as easy as possible. So most things I actually do through ChatGPT, even though there are many specialized tools for different purposes, but it solves most of the needs. The way you train on your transcripts, right, is when you do your customer interviews, you are either recording them on your phone or if they're in person or on Zoom, right? And then you are uploading those transcripts, and then you go through a conversation to educate and create that profile that's actually of your customers, of your prospects, right? So it's the next level in quality from what ChatGPT can provide by itself, because it's built on the real data. How do we join a WhatsApp group? I will reshare the link in a second. In the meantime, we have just a couple of minutes left here, so make sure you guys post your questions if you have any. And tomorrow is the big day. Tomorrow is follow the money, no free pilots, and what we do instead. And in general, looking at really different business models and some of the common mistakes, and how to really get set up for success for this exponential hockey stick growth. And now I've posted the link, so I keep scrolling. Jen, the link is available at the bottom of the chat. All right, regarding the outbound results you showed, can you clarify what year that was? I'm hearing that outbound is less effective nowadays, maybe going the wrong way. Kevin, that was this year's result, right? That was earlier this year. But that's the reason why I have a whole module on outbound, because in fact it became much harder, right? There's recent stricter regulations around the safety of domains, domain warm-ups, email, different registration places where they need to be. It's all quite technical. Most founders are clueless about it and just starting to use different systems for that. So that goes step by step, right? And again, you don't necessarily need to understand what it does, but I walk you through, go here, click here, do this, do that, etc. And that what really makes a huge difference at every step, right? Because again, outbound is a funnel, right? So it starts from your email placement, right? First of all, you need to get into the main inbox and not spam, right? Because if you're spam or then you will never see the light of day. Then from there it goes into your subject line, right? And then from subject line it goes into the actual body, right? Because it open rate, conversion rate, or click-through rate, right? So it's all in that funnel, but that was from this year. I know I need to send out more emails to get the results I need, but I have no idea where to find those contacts and not having much luck building my own list. What do I recommend? I recommend that there are a number of places to buy lists, and a number of ways that you can get on someone else's list, again, through guest blogging, for example. One of such places to buy a list is called MDR. For example, there are probably, and you can Google MDR alternatives. In the program, there are 4 or 5 other resources. Honestly, I just can't come up with names right away. But those are the places that specifically sell educational emails as well. All right, how ScholarLink can attract more users? Did not reply to my email. That's a fairly detailed question. If you want to send me a WhatsApp with that link, I can try to look, but I can promise in-depth assessment, because obviously that's something I do with folks that I work with. But in general, it starts from all the strategies we talked about, right? figuring out who in your network that wants to help you will get you the introductions to those professors, and looking at where those professors are, getting them to, I don't know, buying them coffee or whatever you need to do to get some FaceTime and gain some trust with these professors. These are great tips. Thank you. Interesting. Would love to hear more about brand sponsorship too at some point. Yes, that was a fantastic, very cash efficient model for sure, because we could layer on different monetizations over time. I cannot copy this link. If this link or WhatsApp group we are we using since yesterday? Yes, Patricia, this is the same one. Interesting. Oh, yeah. Should be the same link. And I am looking through the questions yet again. I think we're all good. Thank you, guys. This is day 2. Let's declare it a success, and gonna go strong for day 3. I'm excited to see you all. I'll share the recording and the assignment in the WhatsApp group. And tomorrow is the most important session about following the money. So let's follow the money together tomorrow. Have a great day.